A single careless message can ruin your peace for an entire day. A look of disapproval can make you question yourself. An uncertain result can pull your mind weeks into the future, rehearsing disasters that have not happened. And when life finally presses hard enough, most of us discover that we do not lack information. We lack an inner structure strong enough to stand when everything around us becomes unstable. The Stoics believed that a good life could not be built on luck, praise, comfort, health, status, or the cooperation of other people. Those things matter. Some are deeply worth pursuing, but none of them can guarantee that you will live well. For that, they argued, you need something more durable, a character trained to see clearly, choose rightly, act courageously, and remain fair even when it would be easier not to. This is the meaning of the 4 Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. They are not abstract qualities reserved for marble statues or ancient philosophers. They are the 4 capacities that determine what kind of person you become when you are criticized, afraid, tempted, disappointed, powerful, ignored, successful, or wounded. By the end of this, the virtues may no longer sound like old moral vocabulary. They may begin to look like a practical map for meeting your own life without being ruled by every mood, fear, appetite, or opinion that passes through it. The difficulty is that most people are trained to measure life from the outside. Did I get what I wanted? Did people approve? Did the plan work? Did I avoid embarrassment? Did I come out ahead? These questions are understandable, but they can turn life into a permanent negotiation with forces you do not control. You cannot control whether someone values your effort. You cannot control whether a job offer arrives, whether a friend stays loyal, whether your body remains healthy, whether your honest words are interpreted generously. You can influence many things, sometimes greatly, but influence is not command. And when your peace depends entirely on outcomes, you hand your inner life over to chance. Epictetus began his handbook with a distinction that became central to Stoicism. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Our judgments, choices, desires, aversions, and actions belong to us in a way that external events do not. Our reputation, possessions, body, and the behavior of others do not belong to us in the same complete sense. This is often misunderstood as a demand to stop caring. It is not. The Stoic does not become indifferent to a child's illness, an unjust decision, a failing relationship, or a difficult future. The Stoic cares deeply, but he refuses to confuse caring with helpless attachment. He brings his best judgment and effort to what happens, while recognizing that the final result may remain beyond his control. That distinction opens the door to the 4 virtues. If you cannot control everything that happens, what can you reliably develop? You can develop the quality of your perception. You can develop the bravery of your choices. You can develop the fairness of your conduct. You can develop command over your impulses. Wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance are the architecture of that command. The Stoics did not think virtue was one attractive feature among many, like charm, talent, wealth, or physical strength. They thought virtue was the only thing that was genuinely good in every circumstance. Wealth can help or corrupt. Health can be used nobly or selfishly. Intelligence can clarify truth or manipulate others. Even courage, when separated from wisdom and justice, can become recklessness or cruelty. A good character, however, remains good wherever it is found. It is good in comfort and good in hardship, good when it wins and good when it loses. This does not mean that pain becomes pleasant or loss becomes unimportant. It means that even when external life becomes difficult, you are not forced to become dishonest, cowardly, unfair, or ruled by appetite. Something essential remains yours. The 4 virtues were not invented by the Stoics. They inherited them from older Greek ethical thought and made them central to their own vision of living according to nature, meaning according to reason and our social nature as human beings. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, taught that the goal of life was to live in agreement with nature. Later, Stoics explained that this agreement required a mind capable of sound judgment and a character capable of honorable action. The virtues are distinct, but they work together. Wisdom tells you what matters. Courage helps you do what wisdom sees as necessary. Justice directs your actions toward other people and the common good. Temperance prevents desire, fear, anger, and pleasure from taking command. Remove one, and the others become unstable. Think of a difficult conversation. You may need wisdom to understand what is actually happening, rather than assuming the worst. You may need courage to speak honestly. You may need justice to treat the other person fairly, even if you feel hurt. And you may need temperance to keep anger from turning truth into a weapon. One conversation can require all four virtues at once. Wisdom comes first because a confused mind can make even good intentions dangerous. The Stoics used the Greek word phronesis for practical wisdom. This is not merely being knowledgeable or intellectually impressive. A person can read widely, speak beautifully, and still repeatedly make foolish choices. Practical wisdom is the ability to see what a situation requires, to distinguish appearance from reality, and to choose in accordance with what is truly good. Most of our suffering is intensified by the stories we add to events. Someone does not reply to your message. The fact is simple. They have not replied, but the mind quickly builds a courtroom. They are angry. They do not respect me. I have done something wrong. I am being rejected. Perhaps one of these conclusions will prove true. Perhaps none will. But before evidence arrives, the judgment has already produced the emotion. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself to separate events from the opinions he formed about them. In the Meditations, he writes, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." The translation varies, but the thought is consistent with Stoic teaching. External events do not enter the mind as fully formed judgments. We participate in our suffering by the meaning we attach to them. This is not an accusation. It is an invitation to recover agency. If every painful thought came directly from reality and could not be examined, then you would be trapped. But if some part of your distress comes from an interpretation, then you can pause. You can ask, what exactly happened? What am I adding? What do I know? What am I assuming? What response would be worthy of the person I want to be? Wisdom begins with that pause. It creates space between the first impression and the final judgment. Epictetus taught his students to challenge impressions before giving assent to them. When the mind says, "This is unbearable," wisdom asks, "Is it unbearable or is it difficult?" When the mind says, "I have been humiliated," wisdom asks, "What was actually taken from me?" When the mind says, "Everything is ruined," wisdom asks, "Everything?" That pause can feel small, almost insignificant, but it is often where freedom begins. You may not prevent the surge of anger when someone insults you. You may not prevent fear from arriving before a presentation, an examination, or a medical result. Stoicism does not ask you to become a machine without first reactions. It asks you to examine what follows. Will you build a permanent identity around the insult? Will you obey fear as if it were a prophet? Or will you treat these emotions as signals that deserve attention, but not unquestioned obedience? Consider criticism at work. A manager tells you that your project was weak, unclear, or incomplete. The immediate sting is real. Your face warms. You may feel exposed, but wisdom sees that several different things are mixed together in that moment. There is the content of the criticism. There is the tone in which it was delivered. There's your fear of being judged. There is your desire to appear competent. There may also be an old wound, activated by a sentence spoken in the present. A wise response separates these strands. Is there something useful in the feedback? If so, take it. Was the criticism unfair or carelessly delivered? That may be true as well, but you do not need to turn either possibility into a verdict on your worth. You can say, I want to understand what needs improvement, and then assess the facts. Wisdom does not require you to enjoy criticism. It helps you use it without being destroyed by it. Seneca wrote extensively about anger, and he saw it as one of the most dangerous forms of bad judgment. Anger often feels like clarity. It tells you that the case is obvious, the offender is monstrous, and immediate retaliation is justified. Yet anger narrows the mind. It makes a temporary injury appear permanent, and a limited fault appear total. It wants punishment before understanding. Wisdom does not mean never confronting wrongdoing. It may require exactly that. But wisdom refuses to let the first heat of anger become the author of your actions. If you need to send a difficult message, wait until you can write it without trying to wound. If you need to set a boundary, set it clearly rather than dramatically. If you need to leave a harmful situation, leave because you have judged it harmful, not because rage has made you reckless. This brings us to courage, because seeing clearly is not always enough. Many people know what needs to be done. They know they should apologize. They know they should speak honestly. They know they should stop avoiding the difficult task. They know a relationship has become degrading, that a habit has become destructive, that an injustice requires resistance. Yet knowledge alone does not move the body when fear has taken hold. Stoic courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to treat fear as the highest authority. The ancient Stoics knew fear well. They lived under political instability, exile, illness, war, public disgrace, and death. Some of their lives were comfortable in certain periods, but none of them taught courage as a theory for people protected from consequences. Epictetus had once been enslaved. He knew what it was to have limited external power. His teaching did not romanticize suffering, but it insisted that even under constraint, a person retains a domain of moral choice. You may not choose the conditions that confront you. You can still choose whether you will meet them with integrity. Courage is often pictured as a dramatic act, someone entering danger while everyone else runs away. Sometimes it is that, but more often, courage appears quietly. It is the person who tells the truth without knowing whether it will be welcome. It is the person who goes to the appointment they have been postponing because they fear bad news. It is the person who begins again after failure, without pretending failure did not hurt. It is the person who says, I was wrong, when pride offers 100 defenses. There is courage in being seen honestly. Many people would rather be admired for a false version of themselves than known as they are. They adjust their opinions to fit the room. They laugh at what they find cruel. They remain silent when someone weaker is being dismissed. They build a life around avoiding the discomfort of disapproval. But approval is unstable currency. The crowd that praises you today may demand a different version of you tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius, who held immense political power as Roman emperor, repeatedly warned himself against vanity and the hunger for praise. He reminded himself how brief both fame and those who give it are. This was not contempt for people. It was a correction of perspective. If you make public approval your compass, you will spend your life turning wherever the crowd turns. Courage asks a harder question. What is worth doing even if no one applauds? That question may change how you handle your work. Perhaps you are tempted to hide a mistake because admitting it could make you look less capable. Courage tells you to correct it. Perhaps you are being pressured to participate in gossip because silence could make you seem distant. Courage lets you step away. Perhaps you have allowed someone to speak to you with repeated contempt because you are afraid that setting a boundary will cost you the relationship. Courage helps you say calmly and firmly that this cannot continue. The Stoic does not confuse courage with aggression. A loud person is not necessarily brave. Someone may dominate a room because they cannot tolerate vulnerability. Someone may take reckless risks because they need to prove something. Real courage is guided by wisdom. It knows the difference between facing a necessary danger and creating a dramatic one. There is also courage in acceptance. This sounds strange because acceptance can look passive from the outside, but accepting a fact that you cannot change may demand more strength than fighting it in your mind every day. A diagnosis, a rejection, the end of a career path, the death of someone you love, a decision made by another person that cannot be undone. In these moments, courage is not cheerful surrender. It is the willingness to stop demanding that reality becomes something it is not. The Stoics used the word amor fati much later in the tradition of Stoic interpretation, often translated as love of fate. The basic Stoic attitude behind it is clear. Meet what arrives as material for virtue. You need not call every event good. Some events are terrible, but you can refuse to let hardship make your character smaller. You can ask, given that this has happened, what does wisdom require? What would courage look like now? When you lose something important, this question does not remove grief. Stoicism is not a command to become emotionally untouched. The early Stoics distinguished between destructive passions, which are distorted judgments, and natural human responses. Even a wise person may feel the first movement of sorrow, alarm, or compassion. The question is whether those feelings become tyrants. Grief may remain for a long time. Courage may simply mean getting through the next day without abandoning your responsibilities to yourself and others. It may mean allowing yourself to mourn while refusing the thought that life is now permanently empty. It may mean remembering that love was never a contract guaranteeing possession. What we love is vulnerable precisely because it matters. This is where justice becomes essential. Without justice, Stoicism can be reduced to private self-management. Regulate your emotions, endure your problems, protect your peace. But the Stoics did not teach that a good life is built behind a wall. Human beings, they believed, are made for cooperation. We are rational and social creatures. Our character is revealed not only by how we endure hardship, but by how we treat other people when their needs conflict with our convenience. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. The phrase captures a central Stoic idea. Your flourishing is connected to the flourishing of the larger human community. You are not an isolated project. Your actions travel outward. Your impatience changes a home. Your dishonesty changes a workplace. Your generosity can make another person's burden lighter. Your willingness to act fairly can interrupt a pattern that would otherwise continue. Justice is giving people what they are due. Sometimes that means respect. Sometimes honesty. Sometimes help. Sometimes accountability. It means refusing to treat others merely as tools for your comfort, entertainment, ambition, or emotional release. This is challenging because the people closest to us are often the ones we find easiest to use unfairly. We may be patient with strangers and cruel at home. We may present ourselves as reasonable in public, then unload our frustration on someone who feels too loyal to leave. We may demand understanding for our own mistakes, while offering none for the mistakes of others. Justice asks you to notice these double standards. When you are late, there was traffic, pressure, a complicated day. When someone else is late, they are careless. When you speak sharply, you are stressed. When another person does it, they are disrespectful. The mind is remarkably skilled at building generous explanations for itself and harsh ones for everyone else. The Stoics did not deny that people behave badly. They knew that betrayal, selfishness, deception, and cruelty are real. Marcus Aurelius advised himself each morning to expect difficult people, not because he wanted to become cynical, but because he did not want to be shocked by ordinary human weakness. He reminded himself that those who do wrong act from ignorance of what is good, even when their ignorance causes real harm. This does not mean you must keep giving access to people who repeatedly harm you. Justice includes justice toward yourself. You can forgive without returning to a dangerous pattern. You can understand another person's wounds without making yourself responsible for healing them. You can refuse retaliation without refusing boundaries. Suppose a friend betrays your confidence. A Stoic response is not to smile politely and pretend nothing happened. It is also not to destroy their reputation in return. Wisdom asks what happened and what is now required. Courage allows you to address it. Justice prevents you from lying, humiliating, or seeking revenge beyond what is fair. Temperance keeps the pain from becoming an excuse for cruelty. The same principle applies when you hold power. Perhaps you manage people, teach students, lead a family, or simply have more social influence than someone else in a particular setting. Justice asks whether you use that position to serve or to dominate. It asks whether you listen to the person who cannot benefit you. It asks whether your standards remain fair when nobody is watching. Musonius Rufus, a Stoic teacher, and the teacher of Epictetus, spoke plainly about ethical equality and the education of women, arguing that women as well as men possess reason and should be trained in virtue. That mattered in a world structured by severe inequalities. Stoicism did not erase the injustices of its time, and ancient Stoics were still people of their era, with limitations and contradictions. But the philosophy contained a powerful moral claim. Every human being shares in reason and deserves moral regard. That claim remains demanding. It asks you to see the person you dislike as a person. It asks you to resist the pleasure of reducing people to labels, tribes, stereotypes, or enemies. It does not require you to agree with them. It requires you to remember that hatred is not the same as moral seriousness. Justice also changes how you think about success. If your ambition requires deception, exploitation, or contempt, it may bring rewards without bringing a good life. Seneca was wealthy and politically connected, and his own life raises difficult questions about the tensions between Stoic ideals and public power. But his writings repeatedly return to the instability of wealth and status when they are treated as the measure of worth. The point is not that money or achievement are evil. The point is that they must remain servants of character, not its master. Then there is temperance, perhaps the most misunderstood virtue of all. Temperance can sound like a narrow command to deny yourself pleasure, but the Stoic idea is broader and more humane. Temperance is self-command. It is the ability to enjoy what is available without becoming owned by it. It is proportion. It is knowing when enough is enough. A person without temperance may appear free because they do whatever they feel like doing. But if every craving becomes a command, they are not free. They are pulled from one appetite to another. They say they will stop scrolling, but they do not. They promise themselves they will not send the message, but they do. They decide they will begin the work in the morning, then bargain with themselves until another day disappears. The issue is not simply technology, food, alcohol, sex, spending, entertainment, or comfort. Any of these can become unhealthy, but the deeper issue is whether you can tolerate the discomfort of not immediately getting what you want. Temperance trains that capacity. It teaches you that an urge is not an order. This is especially important when motivation disappears. Motivation is useful, but it is unreliable. It rises when a goal is new, when results are visible, when someone is watching, when the mood is right. Then it fades. A temperate person does not wait to feel inspired before acting on what they have already judged to be important. You may have decided that your health matters, that your work deserves steady attention, that you want to be present with your family, that you want to learn a skill, write a book, repair your finances, or stop returning to a destructive habit. The problem is rarely that you do not know the value of these things. The problem is that short-term comfort repeatedly negotiates against long-term judgment. Temperance gives judgment the final word. It does not demand perfection. Perfection is often another form of vanity, a fantasy in which you finally become immune to weakness. Temperance is more modest. It asks you to practice keeping promises to yourself, especially the small ones. Put the phone down when you said you would. Go for the walk you planned. Stop at the point you decided to stop. Begin the task before you feel ready. These acts may look ordinary, but they shape identity. Every time you act from considered choice rather than passing impulse, you strengthen trust in yourself. You become less dependent on mood. And this changes how you meet larger difficulties, because the mind that has practiced small acts of command is less likely to collapse when life becomes demanding. Seneca advised periodic voluntary discomfort, not as punishment, and not because comfort is inherently wrong, but because people become terrified of losing what they have never learned to live without. He suggested setting aside a few days to live simply and ask whether this was the condition one had feared. The purpose was psychological and moral. If you learn that you can endure less comfort than usual, comfort becomes easier to appreciate and harder for fear to use against you. A modern version need not be extreme. It might mean taking a walk without your phone, eating a simple meal without treating it as deprivation, delaying a purchase you feel compelled to make, sitting with boredom rather than anesthetizing it immediately. These are small rehearsals in freedom. Temperance also applies to speech. Few things are easier to regret than words spoken to discharge an emotion. The desire to correct, impress, expose, defend, or win can make us talk too much and listen too little. A temperate person does not become silent out of fear. They learn to speak deliberately. Before responding in a heated moment, ask whether your words are true, necessary, and proportionate. You may still need to say something difficult, but the aim is no longer to dominate the exchange. The aim is to serve truth and justice. This is why temperance supports relationships so deeply. It creates room for another person to exist without being constantly managed, corrected, or consumed by your needs. The four virtues come together most clearly when life refuses to go according to plan. You apply for something important and wait in uncertainty. You cannot control the decision. You can control whether you spend every hour feeding panic. Wisdom tells you what is known and what is speculation. Courage lets you continue living while the answer is absent. Justice reminds you not to make your anxiety everyone else's burden. Temperance keeps you from compulsively checking, numbing yourself, or abandoning your routines. Or perhaps you face rejection. Someone does not choose you, hire you, invite you, trust you, or love you in the way you hope. Rejection can make the mind cruel. It can tempt you to chase harder, insult the person who declined you, compare yourself obsessively, or turn one closed door into proof that you are unworthy. The virtues offer another path. Wisdom says that another person's decision is not a complete measurement of your value. Courage lets you feel the disappointment without fleeing from it. Justice respects the other person's freedom and dignity. Temperance prevents you from making desperation your guide. You are allowed to want deeply. You are not required to lose yourself when desire is not fulfilled. This is one reason Stoicism remains so relevant. It is not a philosophy for controlling the uncontrollable. It is a philosophy for becoming less internally divided. So much misery comes from knowing what is right, but choosing what is easier in the moment, from seeing reality but refusing to accept it, from wanting respect while treating others unfairly, from claiming to value peace while feeding anger and appetite every day. The Stoics were demanding because they believed human beings were capable of more than reflex. They did not promise an easy emotional life. They offered something sturdier, the possibility of becoming the kind of person who can meet joy without clinging, pain without surrender, power without arrogance, and loss without losing all direction. That work is lifelong. Marcus Aurelius did not write the Meditations as a completed master, delivering polished advice to an audience. Much of it reads like a private effort to remind himself of what he already knew. He returned again and again to patience, humility, mortality, duty, and the need to govern his own mind. This should encourage you. Even a philosopher emperor needed reminders. Virtue is not a permanent mood. It is a practice of returning. You will fail at it. You will sometimes react before thinking. You will say too much. You will avoid what should be faced. You will look for comfort where you should look for courage. The Stoic response to failure is not self-contempt. It is correction. Notice the error, Understand its cause. Repair what you can. Then, begin again without turning one bad moment into a permanent identity. There is no need to wait for a dramatic crisis to practice. The virtues become real in the ordinary pressure points of a day. The moment you receive an irritating message. The moment you want to blame someone without checking the facts. The moment you want to buy relief, eat relief, scroll relief, or speak relief. The moment someone needs patience from you, and you feel you have none left. At those moments, the question is not, how do I feel like responding? The question is, what does this situation ask of my character? Wisdom may ask you to pause. Courage may ask you to speak. Justice may ask you to consider the other person. Temperance may ask you to wait. You do not need to remember an ancient vocabulary perfectly. You can carry the 4 virtues as 4 simple questions. What is true here? What is necessary here? What is fair here? What can I govern in myself here? Those questions will not solve every problem, but they can prevent you from adding confusion, cowardice, cruelty, and excess to problems that are already difficult enough. And over time, something quiet begins to change. The careless message still arrives. The uncertain outcome still keeps you awake sometimes. The criticism still stings. But you are no longer entirely at the mercy of each event. You begin to recognize the distance between what happens and what you make of it. You begin to feel that your life is being shaped less by the weather outside you and more by the discipline within. That is not withdrawal from life. It is readiness for life. It allows you to love people without trying to possess them, pursue goals without being shattered by every setback, and stand for what is right without needing a guarantee of victory. It gives you a center that success cannot inflate and failure cannot completely destroy. Today, choose one moment that would normally pull you into reaction. It may be a criticism, a temptation, an unresolved fear, or a difficult conversation. Before you answer, pause long enough to ask which virtue the moment requires. Then, act from that answer, even if the action is small. If you want to keep building that inner steadiness, subscribe to Stoic Against Chaos. But for now, carry this with you. When life becomes uncertain, your character can still be clear. Wisdom sees, courage acts, justice serves, and temperance remains free.